Everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ. Today's my first PLOTcast, hopefully to do a series of these on YouTube so people can learn how to use the plot better. It's going to be a bunch of topics around the plot. And I think it'll be good for people who are just starting out, new to it, and people that are more advanced, and will kind of just use a lot of topics. If you have any particular topic you want to cover, go to our website at OptixEQ.com, hit the contact button. Tell us what topic you want covered, and we'll do that. So this is the first of this series. And today I want to really kind of focus on who has the best plot. I know a lot of people who are first starting out, or even like people that are just first seeing it, they just kind of get intimidated by the circles and squares. They get frustrated and don't really. This is a good and it's a powerful tool. And I'm going to help you how to use it simply. We'll start simply, and then we'll kind of build on that. So in today's series, in today's episode, what I want to do is I want to talk about what horse is the best position on the plot based on the existing profile. Two, I want to talk about, does the horse run style match today's plot? Show you how to do that. And third, does the race dynamic upgrade or downgrade the horse's chances? Now, I'm going to be covering a race that hasn't run yet. I like doing that. I think that's the way to do these things. So we're going to talk about Horseshoe Indianapolis. This is June the 13th, and it's race, I believe it's race 8. So that's what we're kind of looking at here. We'll get into that a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of set the stage. Again, this will be a series. And if, like I said, if you have a topic, let us know. I'm just kind of basing this on some of the feedback I get on the plot. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is, what horse is in the best position on the plot based on the existing track profile? So what does that mean? Okay. So when we do statistics on the plot, what we do is we look at the quadrant and we look at the horse's shape, square or circle. And for all the tracks and all the specific distances, now we're talking about Indianapolis, and we're talking about, I think this is 1 mile and 70 yards or something, 8.32 or 40 yards, I forget, but you get the gist of it. We have a kind of statistics around this race on dirt and the win percentage, the place percentage, and the show percentage on circles and squares in the different quadrants. And what we do, I'm going to show you the V bar up here. It's called quad percentage. Okay, it's to the upper right. And what this does, it gives you a comparison looking at the win, place, and both for the standard and surface and distance plot. The win, place, and show percentages, and just tells us which horse, how they compare against each other relative to one another, how they fit. And so when you see these bars above 0 and the bars below 0, what it means is that the horses above 0 are good, below 0 is bad. The horses kind of right at 0 are neutral. Simple, right? So when we're looking at the track profile, we look at see the 6 and the 8 are well below. See the lines down there? So what does that mean? That means they have less of a probability based on where they plot, based on the way the track plays. So they're the lowest. So if you look at the 6, let's look at the 6. You hover over here, you can see he's a small circle in quadrant 2, and also a small circle. It's a little bit hard to see in quadrant 4 on the surface and distance plot. The 8, you can see a little bit bigger circle on the standard quadrant 4. And if you look at quadrant 3, he's a circle, small circle. So what that's telling us, let's get into pace and all the rest. It's all telling us that just on a percentage basis, these horses are at a lower percentage versus the other horses on the way they plot, based on the way the track plays. Okay. And then conversely, the 4, the 5 to some extent, and the 7 do better, right? And you can see where these horses plot. And this kind of makes sense if you follow it a little bit. Squares in quadrant 1 are usually good. Well, so it's a little bit of a circle, but in general, the 4 and the 7, based on the track, and the 5 have a better plot. And then I would just say the 1, 2, and 3 are neutral. Okay. Typically, the way I use this, I look for negatives versus, all the positives. To me, I would say, obviously the 4 and 5 and 7 based on the track profile have best, that's the first thing. But I'm really more focused on the negatives. So the 6 and 8s are real negatives to me. So those are the horses I might kind of toss it based on other handicapping, but at least from a plot perspective, they're no good. Okay. So, that's the first thing. So that's essentially kind of looking at the plot applying the statistics based on the surface and distance for this particular track and applying it. Okay, so we've got at least a start. So, you know, if you're a handicap, you may say, look, I'm going to eliminate the 6 and 8. This is an elimination for the 6 and 8. And, you know, I'm not going to eliminate the 1, 2, and 3 yet, but it looks like the 4, 5, and 7 have an edge in terms of where they're positioned. Okay, so again, it goes to who has the best plot. Initially, I would say 4, 5, and 7 have the best plot. Okay, and probably, you know, 4 has the best overall. Okay, but it's close. All right, let's go back and let's look at the second item. What we can do? Does the horse's run style match today's plot? Now, this is a little bit tricky, but I think we've simplified this for you too. If you look up here, this is the run styles of the horses. So they're color coded too. So what does it tell us? Well, the first thing it tells us is that the way the horse likes to run. Okay, so E is a horse that wants to be in front. So you just kind of look at this and say, from front to back, these are horses that want to be up front. You know, the 8 most, 1, 2, 7, 3, 4 next, 5, 6, 9. Simple like that. I mean, if you don't know anything about what run style means, this is the order they like to run. That's when they run their best. We look at their past performances and say, how do they like to run? This is how it lays out. Now, the thing we need to do is each of these horses have different talents. And when we plot them, that comes to light. So we want to kind of compare relative to the way they want to run. Is that going to be helpful or hurtful for them today? So the first thing you look at here is the 8. He's a horse that needs the lead. And look where he's plotting. He's plotting way down. And again, if you remember, if you looked at the basic things in terms of the videos, left to right is the fastest horses early. You know, you just want to kind of look at this across, and you can see the 8 is nowhere near that. So you see this red mark next to the 8. That means that's a very negative match. And again, another horse that we kind of almost eliminated there initially with his track profile. This is kind of a double negative on this horse. So this is not a horse we want to really concerned with backing. You'll see others with a black match and others with a green match. Green means good, black means it's kind of neutral. And you look at the 1, in the instance of the 1, this is a horse that likes to be kind of forwardly placed, early, you know, close to the pace. And you can see he's plotting down. Remember, the second call, even though he's a big square, most people say, oh, he's a big square. He's kind of a negative plot because he likes to be closer, and he's looks like there's some horses that are going to be faster to him, you know, to the second call, much faster to him, and that's kind of a negative. The 6 and the 9, we talked about the 6 being, you know, that horse that didn't fit the track profile either. Well, he's kind of a horse that needs to come from behind, and remember the circles and all the rest. He's the circle, so that's not good for him, and he kind of so his position is negative. And then the 9 is kind of the same thing. He's got this big circle in quadrant, you know, hovering quadrant 3 and 4, not a good thing. So, you know, just from this perspective, the match, you know, for the horse's run style to the plot, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 5 are positive. 1, 6, 9, kind of neutral to negative, and then the 8 negative. Okay, so that's the way to kind of read this. So that's the second thing in terms of us determining who has the best plot. Okay, let's go back to the list here. And the third thing we want to look at is, does the race dynamic upgrade or downgrade horses' chances? Okay, what is the race dynamic? Okay, well, if we look up at the header, what we're trying to look at is this pace going to be fast? Not only is it going to be fast, is it going to be a contentious pace? And when we look at this, it says the contention's a snowflake. And let me see if I can pull this up, because again, this is in the documentation on the website, but I just wanted to point it out. So contention rates, you know, how contentious the early pace is going to be. So when we see a snowflake, what that means is soft contention. So that would benefit horses forwardly placed, horses in, you know, quadrant, hovering quadrant 1, which would be the 2, the 4, and the 7. Okay. The speed rate, which is the next thing, what that does, that kind of determines like how fast these horses might be going. So when we see a speed rating of 23, that's kind of a slow one. Again, that'll, you know, probably give the advantage to horses, you know, forwardly placed. So again, the 2, 4, and 7 benefit from that. Okay. So just to the dynamics of the race, it looks like we have a soft pace that's not that contentious. other, I'm not going to get into some sophisticated things, but there's some times when you have this kind of scenario where the pace might be hotter because the intent of the riders, there's no pace, they all go. But in this case, I think it's safe to assume that the advantage would go to horses like 2, 4, and 7. Okay. Now, if we look at 2, 4, and 7 and we look at their shape, you can see that the 4 is a square in both standard and surface and distance. That means he's got good laid pace. And I just want to bring up, not this. I want to bring up the circles and squares aspect of this whole thing. Do I have it here? Let me pull it up. I don't know where I put it here, but here it is. So I'm going to just show you kind of, again, this is statistically speaking, how the circles and squares kind of lay out. Okay, so the best finishing abilities of a big square, the worst is a big circle. So when we kind of look at that quadrant 1 that we're looking at, we would say that 4 and 7 plot better than 2. Okay, so now the 2 is a little bit higher on the y-axis, not so much on standard. So I would say the 4 and 7 have an advantage over the 2. So based on kind of summarizing this whole thing, we first looked at the track profile. We thought 4 and 7 looked pretty good in terms of the track profile. Second, we looked at their match to the run style. 4 and 7 look good. So did 2 and 3 and 5. And then eventually we went to the pace dynamics. It looks like it's going to favor horses forwardly placed. The horses that are forwardly placed and probably have the best finish are 4 and 7 based on the plot. So overall, I would say the 4 and 7 plot the best. So what you want to do in this case is kind of look at some of the other handicapping factors and so forth. And then I said the other horse that maybe from an exotic standpoint would plot best, it would be the 5, because the 5 matches his run style, and he also is a square. And we talked about him fitting the track profile also. So 4, 7 the best, 5 kind of a secondary position. And I would just kind of look at other handicapping factors. You can look at it here also on the plot, because we go through things like class and speed, and you can look at all those things. So you don't have to leave the plot to do the rest of your handicapping. We have, if you buy notes, we have the notes here. We have kind of form indicators. For instance, it tells us the 4 is coming second off a layoff. So all the stuff is really contained in here. I just wanted to kind of focus on the plot and just give you that. So this is PLOTCast 1. It's Indianapolis race 8 on June 13th. And hopefully you got a little bit better idea how to apply the information in the plot to finding out who has the best plot in this particular race. So look for more of these series. If you have topics you want to cover, let me show you. If you go out to our website and you go to contact, and then you're just going to kind of put your topic in here, and then just send us a message on what topic for the PLOTcast you want. Say, call it PLOTcast, and tell us what you want to cover there. And hopefully this was helpful. And if you have any other suggestions, let us know. You can catch us on Twitter too at OptixEQ.com. I'm John Doyle. Thanks for sharing this with us.